Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Game over, Toronto fans. Welcome back to Game Over. Zach is currently out of picture for some reason. I don't know why. So we're gonna get him in here, but you can hear him. So Zach, Leafs win 4-3 over the New York Rangers in Madison Square Garden. Very, very, very exciting game, and we're gonna talk all about that tonight on Game Over as soon as I can get this fixed because currently it looks atrocious. So yeah, Zach, everybody can hear you. I'm just gonna clip over your face if you could just talk for a few seconds.
Yeah, of course. So all I have to say is this: from the depths of it has never been more over, dare I say, we might be so back like we never left before because the Toronto Maple Leafs, after just a borderline in terms of perception and coverage and mood around the market, it was a borderline cataclysmic week last week where the Leafs were falling in the standings, they're losing home ice advantage, and suddenly we're back to it's possible the Leafs win the division, and yeah, we're feeling good.
And everything is fine. And so, what's going to happen here tonight as I load Zach back in is that we are going to talk all about that game. We are going to we're going to give some report cards out to the new players on the Maple Leafs, and we're going to do that all together, and it's going to be awesome. So, your face, Zach, is right here. There we go. Much better. Why is this? You'll have to forgive us for the tech issues. It has been a long time since we actually had tech issues here on Game Over Toronto.
We've had a pretty good track record. So
We
I
have.
think it's okay for one night.
Yes, we have had a very good track record. Like I said, everybody can hear you. I'm just trying to load your face in here.
Well, currently you have the Game Over resources up on the screen.
Yeah, I don't know why that's happening. Da-da. I don't know why all of this is happening. It's just one of those nights, folks. It just feels like one of those awful nights. And although, you know who didn't have a bad night was the Maple Leafs.
That is true. That is in fact true. Despite what people are going to say and what people have been saying for the last 24 hours, this was, I think, was it the 27th win that the Leafs have had where they've been outshot? And I'm here to tell you folks that that is by design because the Leafs are giving up bad shots and they are not really caring about the quality. Like the Leafs care more about the quality of shots that they allow versus the quantity. They are basically built to beat the Carolina Hurricanes right now. That's like the Leafs are constructed in a lab to beat the Carolina Hurricanes, and they're content to let teams play like that against them, and it's working as it has the last two nights, despite what people will tell you online.
Yeah, and you know, earlier this week the Leafs do play a very good game against the Calgary Flames. I think that it's actually not in a faraway universe where the score is closer to what it was in the Calgary game, even against the Avs the other night, because there's a lot of people saying that there was a lot of puck luck for the Leafs on their side, and maybe the best example of that was the incident with the linesman or the referee last night that led to the Lorenz goal that ended up being the game winner. But other than that, the Leafs have still had a heck of a time not hitting posts and being able to actually connect on a pass. So, like you said, despite the fact that there are a lot of people saying that they are being the second best team on the ice, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the shots are. That's not what the points are rewarded for.
Well, and it's not even that. Like I can fully get behind the argument that there's a right way to win. At the same time, the biggest problem with this team is still the offense. But defensively at 5-on-5, the Leafs have been shutting teams down. The New York Rangers, I want to tell the people that will be shocked to hear this. The New York Rangers at 5-on-5 tonight. Again, the average in the league for high danger chances is around 11 or 12. Leafs games are typically a little bit lower. The Leafs are about 10 in both for and allowed. The New York Rangers tonight at 5-on-5 had 5 high danger chances. That is next to nothing. Like, that is completely acceptable. And expected goals at 5-on-5, the Leafs controlled 64.5% of the expected goals, and the Leafs won the expected goals race 2.64 to 1.45. The Rangers had 1.45 expected goals at 5-on-5. That is nothing. The biggest problem in the game for the Leafs actually tonight was Anthony Stolarz, which is weird to say, but the Leafs defense was legitimately outstanding tonight, and the Rangers had zero quality on their shots. Look at their goals. They get a point shot from Borgen. They get a point shot that pops out a rebound, and then the third one is a deflection in front on a 6-on-5. The 6-on-5 is a legit concern, but 5-on-5, the Leafs are legitimately good defensively and have been playing that way the last couple games.
Stoley definitely had a tough night in terms of rebound control, which is something all year he's been unbelievable at, which I think is why all of a sudden now we're like, what are you doing? Because up until essentially the last 2 weeks, he has been an actual sponge, like a sort of mattress or like a Tempur-Pedic where there's no bounce back. You just sink into it. He's been so good at absorbing all of those pucks so far this season. And so, yeah, tonight, that first goal, the Panarin goal, is because of a rebound, a perfect rebound. Now, the shot from the point is like they said on the broadcast, not meant to actually be like a shot meant to score the goal. It's meant to create that opportunity.
Of course.
Right?
But that's going to happen. That is Stolar's biggest weakness is his rebound control. This has been a thing all season where he kicks out these giant rebounds. But the way that he's been able to be so good this season is the Leafs have been really good at clearing those rebounds. Obviously, on that play, that doesn't happen, and that sucks. But you're not going to shut teams out every game. I'm sorry. That's not how the NHL works.
Yeah. Yeah. And not even a team that's fighting for their lives like the New York Rangers are, right? Because they're on the outside looking in on the wild card race right now. And they needed to win this game. They needed to win this game. Despite the fact that the Senators got their faces caved in this evening. Yeah, I mean, anytime we play against Shesterkin, it doesn't feel like... sure, in the last few years, there's been a number of games where the Leafs get goalied by him, but kind of like Vasilevsky, the Leafs have been doing a really good job all season of making him seem very human.
So the difference here is with Vasilevsky, the Leafs just own him, period. with Shesterkin, it's only in New York. In Toronto, Shesterkin destroys the Leafs, but in New York, the Leafs, the road team in this head-to-head, always seems to find success.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just funny how that works, eh?
Yeah,
you know who else had a really good game? John Tavares, man.
Yeah.
He had a good night.
And that whole line, honestly. So we've had this eternal battle about what do you do with the lineup? Do you load it up in the top six, or do you spread the wealth and you put Nylander on the third line, Marner on the second line, have Domi up with Matthews, whatever? If you're going to load it up and you're going to have Knies, Matthews, Marner, you're going to have Tavares and Nylander, Bobby McMahon has to be the other top six forward, because that trio it was good earlier in the season. Yeah. And then they went away from it because McMahon was helping the third line get going. And then McMahon was on a slump. And so you couldn't justify him going there. Man, he looks good. He looks bad. He's dare I say he is so back. That second line looked really good. John Tavares, I thought Tavares last night was against Colorado was not his best game, but he really rebounded again tonight, and he has just and it's not even to say he was bad last night. He was just kind of fine. There's a difference between good John Tavares and normal John Tavares, whereas Tavares is always good at the little things. He's always going to do small things to give you a better chance to win. But tonight, he was all over it. He was the driver on that line. Nylander wasn't even the one driving play, which is rare. And he was that first goal. What a snipe. I genuinely, I audibly gasped when that goal went in.
He had fresh kombucha this morning. That's what it must have been before he left for New York, because that was just an absolute piss missile. Just an absolute piss missile. Putting the Leafs up, obviously 1-0 with 7:23 to go in the first period. And the primary assist coming on that wonderful play from John Tavares, who was the person that passed to this individual who also had a 3-point night tonight, Jake McCabe.
Offensive defenseman Jake McCabe, wake up! Hello, like
Morgan.
I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you saw this last night, Lauren, but McCabe absolutely undressed the Makar and Taves duo with just an absolutely nasty move that we broke down last night, and now he has 3 assists tonight. Like genuinely, I don't know where this came from, but I am a fan of Brian McCabe reincarnated here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so good. And later on in the third period, we're going to talk about how the right parts of the Leafs are getting hot at the right time. Because another player that has had a little bit of resurgence the last couple of games, who was stumbling since the Four Nations face-off and since before that, Austin Matthews also having a very, very, very good night tonight, despite the fact that he was not actually one of the people that scored. He had a really good game. I mean, he can't score an empty netter to save his life, but just there's been little flashes of what we've expected from him and what the precedent that, in fairness, he has set for what should be the expectation for him playing. And just in terms of his hands and the way he's been able to move the puck and get past a number of defenders, it happened tonight. He didn't bury the chance, but he went in like 4v1 and was able to get in all the way past the faceoff dot. And so, again, I think he's gonna. Hopefully he's recovering. It looks like Berube did a really good job tonight of actually rolling all 4 lines, so that I think they said like halfway through the third period, he had barely been on the ice for like 14 minutes.
Yeah, so I'll pull up the full ice time actually. So in this game, Austin Matthews, yeah, he played 17:35.
That is just fine.
Tavares and Nylander were both at about 19.5 minutes. Mitch Marner, I assume, was a bit higher. Oh, no, Marner was at 17.5 too, so he was a bit down too. So they were the second line tonight, I guess, is the simplest way to put that. And honestly, this is like, obviously, I'm imagining Matthews and Marner would play the most in the playoffs, but I don't want those guys over 20 minutes. There was not a single forward over 20 minutes tonight. That's how it should be. If you're going to build it this way, have the third line be this little water bug line, whatever, and then have the fourth line be your checking line. Roll all 4, because I mentioned this. I've mentioned this in the past, but the playoff series where Florida just kicked the Leafs' teeth in 2023. Matthew Tkachuk, despite not scoring in that series, was an animal the entire time, and he was averaging like 16 minutes a night because every time he was stepping on the ice, you were getting his best. Whereas when the Leafs roll out these guys for 24 minutes a night, they get tired, and it's okay. It's human. It's not their fault, but I think optimizing this lineup in a way where you're playing the top 6 a reasonable amount of time so that every time they step on the ice, you are getting their best. I think that's the way to go.
And I think that them having that amount of ice time, each one of them, justifies the fact that they don't need to be playing 23, 24 minutes a night. There's no need to. The Leafs now have the depth, not just at defense, but at forward, to be able to not have their superstars on their PK. Now, having said that, if you get into a game where you're taking penalty after penalty in the playoffs, sure, maybe you throw them out at that point. But they should not be like first unit PKers.
Marner,
if for no other reason than to try and mitigate injury. If for no other reason.
I would say Marner can be on the penalty kill. He could be your top unit. Like, I would have Kampf and Marner be your top penalty kill, but Matthews should be nowhere near it.
Yeah, in fairness, like, Austin Matthews has a way worse injury history than Mitch Marner does. So if you want to do that, then fine.
He's also just worse at penalty killing.
Yeah. And Matthew Knies turning into a very wonderful penalty killer, and as time goes on, only making a better case for himself to run away with a wonderful contract this offseason. And in fairness, he has earned it, because at no point in Matthews' existence in the Maple Leafs, maybe since Zach Hyman, has he had a left winger so competent. Since Zach Hyman.
I was going to say, don't forget about, So, I mean, granted, that's like in the last 4 years, but I would say there are certainly a lot of comparables to the Leafs version of Zach Hyman. We have to clarify that.
Sure.
The Leafs version of Zach Hyman, not the 50-goal scorer
No.
Zach Hyman. But Knies, like, he does some of the same things. He can kill penalties, not as well as Hyman does, but he can do that. I think he'd probably be my 5th penalty killer if I had to rank them right now. But he gets in on the forecheck. He's big, he's mean, he's tough, and he has a way better shot than Hyman, to be fair. But
Yeah.
so, like, it is not a fair comparison. Like, it's apples to oranges. Like, they both are different players. But in terms of the element that they bring to the Matthews line, absolutely, I'm on board with you there.
And it's just, don't get me wrong, Zach Hyman is a wonderful player. You can't move Matthew Knies the way you can move Zach Hyman in front of the net. Like, it doesn't move. You might as well try and, like, bull rush an elephant.
I mean, in Edmonton, Zach Hyman basically is the net because they run that whole extension of the post thing where he'll just stand at the post and shoot it off of him. Yeah. So, you can't move everything.
That's true. That's true. And it's less of a priority when they are off to the side because it is uncommon for players to be so good there. Obviously, Al in the chat, Conflict very good as well, very fast and checking relentlessly. Yeah, he had a really good night tonight after being off the last few games. I know we're going to talk about the report cards for the new guys. I do think that Scott Laughton looked a little bit better tonight than he has in other nights. I know that you were still right.
Also looked better on the 4th line when he played there. So.
Yeah, I do also think that especially after tonight's game and the game last night against Colorado, I do not think that there's any excuse to ever have Pontus Holmberg higher than the 3rd line. And again,
in the lineup.
Because yeah. Like, I would rather have Calle Yarncrook than Pontus Holmberg.
Yeah.
Who is off tonight.
Exactly.
So, to this day, I have no idea. There must be something, like, Holmberg must have secrets on someone's family or something, because he had a longer stretch at left wing than he really had any right to.
Berube found his Kerfoot. Every coach has their guy that just they adore, but the fans are like, we don't get it. Like, it's dumb. The analytics say this is dumb. The eye test says this is dumb, but the coach will continue to do it. Holmberg is that. Like, no matter what, it will physically pain Craig Berube to scratch this player for whatever reason. Granted, he has, like, rookie year Michael Bunting syndrome where he draws a billion penalties inexcusably. Like, I have no idea how. But I've never seen a player that, like, he's a legitimately good passer, but he has one hand on his stick way too much, and he's not that physical. We saw him in the playoffs last year. Like, he's a guy. As a 13th forward, he's fine because if someone gets hurt, you know that he will be a net neutral player. But there's nothing he does that is special.
Yeah. Like, I even think back to, like, other players that we've had that are no longer on the Leafs that I would rather have that also had no upswing, but at least were, like, fast and somewhat talented. Like, I look at Edmonton having Kasperi Kapanen, and I'm like, I think I would rather have Kapanen. At least he got into the zone quickly.
I would rather have 2021 Nick Foligno.
Wow. Never scored a goal in his time as a Leaf. Brutal.
At least he at least brought some of the physicality.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, let's play a fun little game of who would you rather, Pontus Holmberg or Ryan Reeves?
Holmberg.
Okay. That's easy.
I
That's
can't
the free
pretend.
score.
Ryan Reeves is, he's the free score. He is the vibes guy. He should not be anywhere near. Please, Craig, don't get ideas.
No.
Don't do it to me, man.
No.
The 4th line has been legitimately good when they have Kampf with 2 energy guys. I don't care if that's Yarncroke. I don't care if that's Laughton. Just make sure that it's 2 guys that bring energy, because otherwise, if you put Reeves on the 4th line, suddenly that 4th line no longer has an identity, and it's just 3 guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and I all 3 of those players contribute more offensively and defensively than Ryan Reeves does.
I'll throw one back at you. Pontus Holmberg or Alex Steeves?
Alex Steeves. At least he does something. He can score. He has as much effort in every shift as Nick Robertson.
I should clarify, this is for a 4th line role and for the playoffs.
Yeah.
This is like, if this is a regular season game, sure, Holmberg is probably a better option. He's more skilled. If this is to play in the top 9, yes, Holmberg plays better with skilled players. But if we're talking strictly to get the most out of David Kampf and Steven Lorentz and the fourth line as a whole,
And a Snowflake's
saying.
chance in hell of scoring a goal, too. Because it would be nice in the playoffs for the fourth line to contribute a little bit.
Even like if the Leafs made the Eastern Conference Finals this year, I will take 1 goal from that line. I just want them to win. Like they could win the playoff minutes 1-0 for all I care.
Yeah.
Just be nothing.
I mean, the good thing is we are basically guaranteed a David Kampf goal somewhere in the in every round. That does happen.
True.
He does.
True.
And it's always in a big
Playoff
moment,
Kampf is
Mr.
coming.
David Kampf. We're all gonna go.
Yeah.
We're gonna get in my car and we're gonna go camping, man. That's what we're gonna do. So
Maybe Steven Lorentz can get in on the action too. I don't know. We'll
Mr.
see. Maybe we can
Shorthanded.
build a useful fourth. Like remember, in 2023, the fourth line was, what was it? It was Lafferty, Aston Reese, and probably Kampf. And I know
no fun to
Aston
play
Reese
against.
scored in the first. Aston Reese definitely scored in the first round, and I know Lafferty scored against Florida at least once. So,
yep. That's all you need. And if you have Nick Robertson in the bottom six, that is a possibility. Now I will say that third line does get hemmed like a pair of pants, though, don't they? Golly, they love to get stitched into their own end.
that. I don't know what you do with the third line left wing. Maybe it's Robertson and Yarncroke slides in on the right. I don't know what the third or like the other winger is on that line. That is you buckle up and hope they just come out ahead in the overall series. Because there will be at least 2 games where they just don't do anything.
I just don't get how you put Holmberg in over Yarncroke. Yarncroke is a better defensive and offensive player than Pontus Holmberg is.
Yeah, the only justification is that Holmberg is a better passer. That's the only,
Yeah, but you have a good passer on the line in Max Domi.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what his line's supposed. Anyway, I guess we'll see.
Here.
We got 13 games to go before the playoffs, and then I guess we can argue then too.
We are getting. I can't. But this season's flying by at this point now.
Yeah, I know. It's tonight was game 69. Nice. Okay, well let's move over into the second period now that your wonderful face. I will say you are sitting in the darkness, so it looks a little bit like you're a floating head.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Well, yeah, and I'm wearing a dark gray hoodie. Like this is, I made some terrible decisions.
And we'll just call you Lauren and Oz for this episode. That's what we'll do. So let's talk about those new Leafs. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the unfortunate. So let's start with the good. Brandon Carlo had a rough couple of first games. Has now made himself pretty decent. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't fantastic. But the last couple of games, he seems to have gotten in the rhythm. He gets the belt last night. Was it? Yeah, last night against Colorado? No. It was Joseph Woll.
Was it Calgary, maybe?
Yeah, it was Calgary. You're right. Carlo gets the belt earlier this week. He looks pretty good, man. He had a couple really nice clears in the game tonight. He's playing sound defensively. I think he was actually on the ice for one of the goals against tonight. But he's been pretty good. I have no complaints.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up Money Puck because I need to see.
Because I don't think he has.
Yeah, he was.
I don't think he has any points yet.
Yeah, I don't care. He's not a points guy.
No,
that's not what you need him for. Not everyone is Jake McCabe. So okay, yeah. So Carlo tonight was the Riley Carlo pair was around 70% expected goals, which means Carlo, since becoming a Leaf, including the Colorado game, which was, and the Utah game, which he had a couple terrible mistakes in, especially that one goal against. As a Leaf, he is over 60% expected goals. So I don't know what more you could want. He has been everything I dreamed of and more. And he has not only been super solid on his own, he is also helping carry Riley to good results again. He's gotten the best results out of Riley all season. Granted, comparing Brandon Carlo to Philip Myers is a bit insulting, but even Chris Tanev played with Riley for an extended period, and Carlo is getting more results out of Riley than Tanev did.
Yeah, he's getting similar the results to what Lyubushkin and even Shen did a couple years ago, right? Better
than that.
No, I just mean in terms of that's the style of player that he's been with.
Oh yeah,
they're not trying to match him with somebody else, and it must be so nice to not have like I love when TJ Brody first came to Toronto, he was phenomenal, and every year
Yeah.
it sort of tapered off every more and more. And by the end, it was like we just had shavings of Brody on the floor. Like he was barely whole. Now he's been fine in Chicago,
No, yes, that's
but it's Chicago. He's playing about as well
he's
as
getting
Chicago
scratched.
is. Right. Well, I mean, Chicago is scraping the bottom of the barrel too. So,
Yeah.
ever since he went through some personal things, I know his father passed away. His everything has sort of really fallen off. And honestly, like he was a really good player for us. He was a good Leaf, and I hope that he finds it again and that he's able to come back and that his career doesn't putter out the way that it has, because it's been a little bit sad. But Brandon Carlo has come in, I mean, and the Leafs have him signed for not only this year and the next year, but I believe a year or two after that as well. And so
it's 2 more years after this one.
right. So I couldn't be happier with that signing, honestly. If we're given report cards, I'm giving a solid A. Solid A.
Fraser Minton, I love you, buddy, but sayonara. Like, Fraser Minton could become the Bruins' second-line center for the next 10 years, and I will still not regret that trade. It's the same way. It's in the same vein that Trevor Moore ended up being super, and Sean Durzi both ended up being super sick players, and I still don't regret the Muzzin trade at all.
No, absolutely. I agree. I say no, but I agree. I miss Trevor Moore a lot. I love when we play the Kings. I don't even usually watch the Leafs. I just watch him play because I always loved his play when he was on the team. I still fantasize about that hit that he had on Zdeno Chara when Babs was the coach. Like I like you just cut like toast a piece of bread and spread that all over it and eat that for breakfast. But he would never have gotten the chance to be as good as he is in Toronto as he's getting in LA. So I don't think that if he stayed in Toronto, he would be the player that he is now. Like you said. Same thing with Sean Durzi,
like, The only guy that the Leafs have really gotten rid of that I'm like, you would have been the same player in terms of like prospects that never got a chance is probably Brazeau.
Yeah.
Like he would have been a good fourth liner, maybe third liner eventually, that they just gave up on for no reason. But
yeah.
Oh well. You can sign him this offseason.
Of all the people to lose out on, I'm not crying over that one.
Sign him this offseason anyways. And just Lorenz Kampf, Brazeau, let's go.
I wouldn't hate that. Not going into next year, that's for sure. And then so we move over to the other player. The person that you were adamant about the Leafs not acquiring at the deadline, and then they did it anyway. Now he has not been a huge negative, but he has been on the ice, especially those first couple games were quite rough. Seems to be sort of picking up the pace a little bit now, getting a little bit closer. He did have a good opportunity. I think actually late in the third period, there was a really good play with Steven Lorentz where they were almost capitalized on a play. Still hasn't happened. I know that you didn't like him before. Now that it's been a couple of weeks, how do you feel about it?
So I want to clarify. I don't have anything against Scott Laughton the player.
Or a person.
My problem. No, it seems like now I will say like he does seem like a guy that is feeling the weight of playing in Toronto. I watched that Leaf Blueprint 10-minute like mini video on the Leafs channel, and his demeanor is just it came off like very nervous. He was talking about how it means so much to play in Toronto. It just seems like he's feeling the weight of this. I think Craig Berube talked about that too, how he really wants to succeed here, and I think that's getting to him a bit. But my problem has never been with Scott Laughton. My problem has entirely been with the Flyers front office and the acquisition cost they placed upon him. Now that anger has flipped to the Leafs front office for paying that price. Nikita Gribankin, look, I love him. He was great for a couple
memes
games. He was fun to watch. Great memes. But I'm not losing sleep over Nikita Gribankin being a Flyer. I might lose sleep over trading a first-round pick for Scott Laughton. That's tough. That's it just. I think Scott Laughton is fine if you get over the fact that he's not going to live up to the first-round acquisition cost. And if you accept what he is as a player, which is A, not a center, and B, not anything offensively, he can put up like legit 35 points.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Maybe that's the third line problem is that you go Laughton, Domi, Robertson.
Yeah.
Gives you some energy, gives you a little bit more bite than
A little bit
McMahon
of net
brings,
front
and
presence with
also
Laughton. A little bit of
a
chase
little
with
bit more net.
Robertson.
Because that's the thing is McMahon is a great player, but he's a little bit more speedy, a little bit more of a shooting threat, and he's a little bit less of a net front guy. Does lay hits, but he's not as good defensively as Laughton. He's not as physical in front of the net as Laughton. I think, or as good on the forecheck, I should say as well. There should be there could be an avenue there.
I actually don't hate that. Because if even if you mix up where their positions are, I totally agree with you that McMahon is not a good net front guy, but up on the line with Tavares and Nylander, he doesn't have to be that because John does that.
Yeah,
right.
And I should say, Matthew's asking this in chat: Laughton or Domi at center? It'd be Domi. Laughton's not a center.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not this season. He has in the past.
Not ever. He's good in the faceoff dot. Like he can play center on the penalty kill, where center doesn't actually mean anything. But he's not a center, guys.
Yeah, and it is a little bit funny that the Leafs end up paying a prospect and a first round pick for a non third line center.
Well, and to be fair, it's like they tried it, as Matthew points out. Like
they could in a pinch they could do it.
Yeah, it's honestly it's the same way that Domi's not a center. He is playing it right now, but the Leafs basically just have two guys that are primary wingers, secondary position center, and now you kind of have to just make it work. Actually, Domi's pretty good in the faceoff dot too, but Laughton's better defensively. But I think Laughton plays better defensively from the winger spot. I think everything Laughton does is better on the wing, and while that's also true for Domi, I think if you have a babysitter with Laughton on that line, you can let Domi kind of cheat for offense a bit more.
Yeah, and Al in the chat, Flyers knew they had Toronto over Barrel. They needed a third line center, and he was the only one they could get. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Who else were you going to get?
So your options were somehow, I don't know how this pricing would have worked out because Tampa got two players in this deal, but you would have either had to somehow snipe Gord away from the Lightning, who he's been a fourth liner for Tampa anyways, or you pay up for Brock Nelson, which hasn't really worked out for Colorado so far. I would have wanted to chase a guy. I don't know. Like there were rumors about Jared McCann in Seattle. There were rumors. I wanted JG Pajot out of Long Island, but
I think they said the Islanders came out and said that they weren't going to trade him like the day before, though, didn't they? If you have a big enough price tag, I imagine they would have.
It was all rumors anyways.
Sure.
But like as Al says, Domi's not a center. Guess what? Laughton's not either. You don't have a third line center, so you just have to make it work. But for what it's worth, Domi in the playoffs was legitimately good as not just a center, but the first line center between Bertuzzi and Marner after
that
Matthews
is true.
went out. He was legitimately good. And Domi, I am the number one Max Domi hater, and Lauren, you know this. Max Domi legitimately elevates his game in the playoffs.
He does.
So if I was going to put either Laughton or Domi in center, it'd be Domi, and I'm banking on Domi bringing a little bit more juice in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. So, having said all of that, what do you give Scott Laughton after 2 weeks as a Leaf? Not the front office, not the front office, just his play.
Yeah, hold on. Just in a vacuum, Scott Laughton is a Leaf?
Yeah.
It still has to probably be in the D range because he's played. I'll give him a flat D because you brought him in and you tried him at third line center. It didn't work out. You tried him for 2 periods as the second line left wing and he looked good. But now he's on the fourth line. You tried him at fourth line center. And that didn't work. So now he's fourth line winger, and you had to bring David Kampf back in, which was the right call, by the way, bringing Kampf back in. He needs to be in the lineup. But he has just not – it's just taking a little bit longer for him to fit in than Carlo did. So I don't think this will stay as a D grade. I think again, this is someone who his traits and what he brings to the table will be amplified in the playoffs. But for the last, 13 games you said, it might be a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. I think I would maybe give him... I would give him a D+. I'm not going to give him a flat D. I was trying to think of like players that the Leafs have gotten at the deadline of recent for down in the lineup and comparing them to other players. The Sam Laffertys, the Colin Blackwells, the Connor Dewars, and those players, for the most part, actually came in and scored a goal within their first few games. Scott hasn't done that. I didn't give him a negative or a D flat or a D minus simply because he has not been a net negative when he's been on the ice. It's not like he's been exclusively responsible for specific turnovers. There have been a number of plays on the PK that have been good that I've seen him where I'm like, okay, if you can do that, in the other 170 feet of the ice, then great. But he just hasn't been able to do that.
The problem Laughton's run into is he hasn't worked out at center, and so he's basically the winger version of David Kampf right now.
Right.
Legitimately good defensively, legitimately like really good penalty killer.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love him on the penalty kill. But once the puck exits the Leafs zone, you're not getting anything of value there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do, like I said, I mean, it's been a long time since the Flyers were in the playoffs, really. So I think him getting a chance to really compete in the playoffs, and I even think, the last couple of games leading up to the playoffs that are obviously, if you are watching this, then you've probably taken a look at the standings. The entire league, not even just the Eastern Conference, but the Western Conference as well. There are a number of teams that are in contention for wildcard spots where the rankings are changing minute by minute and day to day in terms of who's winning each division. So it'll be really good for the Leafs, I think, to play some meaningful games all the way up till the end of the season. That includes 2 more games against the Florida Panthers. We got 13 left and 2 of them against Florida, which they need to win. They need to win those 2 games.
Absolutely. At least one of them.
Yeah. And
you have to win at least one to give yourself a chance.
Yeah. And if the Leafs are going to have a good run in the playoffs, then both of these new players need to be great. Brandon Carlo has been fabulous. I am positive that he is going to elevate in the playoffs. I imagine. I'm interested to see.
We know he does. We've played against him so many times.
That's true. I try not to think about what the other team does, but you're right. I'm a little bit interested to see if Carlo brings anything to the room. I mean, you have a lot of personalities in there, but I wonder if he's going to go in there with a little bit of a different attitude, just because he has been in Boston's room, which we know is like one of the best, the most cohesive, even though Boston hasn't played well the last few years in the playoffs.
I think everything that you're looking for in terms of a different kind of personality is Tanev. Tanev is that guy.
Yeah,
like
that's
Tanev
true.
is the guy that he's no BS. He owns up to his mistakes about probably more than anyone in the core 4 has in the past 8 years.
Yep.
Like he is just. I love reading the quotes after Leafs losses where Tanev will be like, we didn't play good enough. We just got it. Like, we have to try more effort, more hustle, whatever. And then Mitch Marner will get asked to be like, well, what do you want us to do? Win every game?
Yeah. It's a tight game out there. And they're a really good hockey team. Oh my God. It's like you can play
Tavares
bingo.
If they've learned any more lessons.
Oh, ask any of them. Ask any of them. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, let's move over into the third period. By the way, welcome to Game Over Toronto. If you're new, maybe you're watching for the first time, my name is Lauren. On the other hand side of the screen, we have Zach. If you could hit like and subscribe, it would really make our winning nights even better. And if you go and scroll into the links down below, you can find both of our socials. You can find all the information for the Game Over Network, which is our main channel. Again, if you are new here, maybe you're listening for the first time or watching, we do a live stream after every single Leafs game, and we are actually part of a network of Canadian shows that are run by Canadians for Canadians, well, for fans of any country, no matter where you are and how much tariffs you try and put on us. And we are a network where we have a team in every single Canadian hockey division, in every single hockey city. And we have shows on all of those after every single one of those games, whether you're a Vancouver fan, Edmonton, Winnipeg, whether you are a Calgary fan or you are a Sens fan or a Habs fan or a Leafs fan, we have a home for you. We actually do crossover shows. So we actually, when we played against the Flames back on Monday, there was a crossover show between one of our hosts and one of the Calgary hosts. So make sure you go check that out. And make sure you go check out our website. You can find all of our merch there, information about how maybe you're a small business owner and you would like us to advertise for you and we could have a little quid pro quo. All that information is down in the description below, so please make sure you check that out. And we are going to move over into our third period and talk about the fact that the Leafs defense and goaltending has, it looks like, to some degree, and it might be early, and knock on wood here, kids, it looks like the Leafs defense and goaltending is getting hot at the right time. There was a number of games in the last couple of weeks where the Leafs did look like the second best team, and for the first time this season, there were questions about the players that sat between the pipes. And in the last couple of games, both in Calgary or against Calgary and against Colorado last night, and tonight, those goalies are looking better and better and better. Zach, we still have 13 games to go, but Jake McCabe had 3 points tonight. And he is going to be a Maple Leaf for a long time to come, and he is going to be instrumental when the Leafs get into the playoffs, regardless of who they play in essentially 3 weeks. How important is it that the Leafs goaltending and defense is getting hot when it needs to?
So we're kind of going against each other. Stolarz was a little shaky, but he definitely did not have his best game, and I do think, on the contrary, Joseph Woll has suddenly made who's the game one starter a conversation again. Who is it going to be? We'll find out. Whoever the hot hand is down these last 13 games, you split them the rest of the way, and we'll find out. But I'm comfortable with the top four. Very comfortable, I should say. I'm about as comfortable with the top four as I have been in the Matthews era. Probably more comfortable than at any point in the Matthews era. Like, love Justin Hall. When he was in the top four, I wasn't that comfortable.
You could probably even go back to that. You could probably say since like 2010. Really? In terms of top four?
Might have to go back further, honestly. Like, we might have to go back to the early 2000s when I was either very young or not born. This actually, genuinely, this might be the in my lifetime.
Oh, that hurts me.
But I think I don't love Benoit has had a good 24 hours. I'll give him that. OEL has had a rough go of it on the third pair on his offside. I'm ready to see Philip Myers just to see if we can unlock, because I think we're fairly in agreement that Benoit and Myers are fairly similar in terms of their overall impact.
Yeah, and their play style even to some degree. Like, Myers is more likely to take shots from the point, but Benoit has sort of decided that he's doing that lately and putting shots on net randomly, which I don't hate because that has not been something that the Leafs have done. But yes, they are basically interchangeable to me. So
if they're interchangeable, let's for the sake of argument say that they provide the same value.
Mm-hmm.
The boost from putting OEL on his strong side versus having him on his weak side, I think will be enough to make up the difference there. Yeah. To justify Myers being in over Benoit. Like, when have we ever had 3 righties and 3 lefties?
Like righties that play righties, not lefties that play right?
Yes, like right-handed defensemen and 3 right-handed defensemen and 3 left-handed playoff. Last year we had Benoit and McCabe on one pairing, and then the year before that we would have had McCabe was playing with who? I don't even know. Who is he playing with in 2023? Was it Liljegren?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. But so it hasn't happened enough in the Matthews era, I guess is the point, because it probably has happened, but I want to try it at least. Like, even if Ben was your guy, I'm not resigning myself to that fate because I care too much about myself. But I also I actually genuinely have thought Ben was been better in the last couple games, just in his ability to get the puck out and not do stupid stuff. OEL has unironically been the worst defenseman the last 3 games, which far cry from where we were in January and February, where he might have legitimately been the best one. So peaks and valleys with this guy. He's got to figure it out, but the defense overall has been very good. Joseph Wool the last couple games has been fantastic. Stolarz on the season has been fantastic. Starting to creep some questions in here as the season goes on, but I mean, he's still got enough of he's built up enough goodwill for me to trust him if it were to come to that. So I think this is how the Leafs are going to win.
Yeah.
If the Leafs are going to win in the playoffs, it's going to look like tonight and last night, where the offense does enough and your defense and goaltending shuts down the opponent, and there's going to be less than 5 goals a game.
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about, Benoit not taking as many silly penalties. Really important note that the Leafs only took 1 penalty tonight. And it was not a too many men, thank goodness.
Well, they only took 1 actual penalty last night before, like infraction, and then the too many men bench minor. So the whistles are getting tighter.
Mm-hmm.
And the Leafs don't draw a lot of penalties anyways. That's also because they don't take any. So if the games are being played mostly at 5-on-5, that favors the Leafs.
Yeah,
right now
they have been a better 5-on-5 team. Not even just this season, but the last several. They've been in the top, 10% essentially from the beginning of the season to the end of the season for at least the last 2 at 5-on-5. So,
well, I actually was referring to like the last month and a bit,
right.
In terms of very recent. Whereas in February, that would really be something I'd be concerned about 5-on-5. But oh, Luke, I love you. Where should Hakanpää play in the third?
Oh my gosh!
Bionic knee Yanni Hakanpää will save the third pair.
Yeah, I think
he'll save OEL.
A sentence Abs fans will never have thought they could ever hear, but it sounds like Gabe Landeskog will play in the playoffs this year and Yanni Hakanpää will not. So, go figure.
Tell Kay that.
I'd like to retain my life, actually. So we are going to go over into our overtime period here in just a second. Make sure you hit your questions. Also, thank you, Luke, for being here. Appreciate you as always. Make sure you get your questions down below if you have anything that you would like us to talk about before we sign off for the evening. Maybe we want to talk about the fact that the Leafs are going to go play against Nashville on Saturday. And Nashville is, third last to win? Third last in the entire league, which means the Leafs are definitely going to lose on Saturday.
So before, I said this on probably Sunday offline, but I looked at the schedule and I said, okay, we got Calgary on Monday. We've got Colorado Wednesday, New York on Thursday, Nashville Saturday. And the Leafs, again, this was at a time where the Leafs, not a lot of optimism around them right now. And I said, win all of them. Yep. Win all of them and show us that you should be in this division race, and make it a conversation again, make it an open competition again. We're 75% there. And now, surely the easiest part of this week will not be the one that undoes that and makes me mad, right?
I mean, Zach, they're going to play Nashville and then they're going to go to California where they get to play against the Sharks and the Ducks. So, what's the worst that can happen?
Well, they've already lost to the Sharks.
All I'm saying is take the under for the Leafs and the over for the other teams coming up this week.
Oh, dude. Nashville at +1.5 is going to be the best bet of all time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean...
No, seriously, though, that game screams 1-0 Leafs.
Yeah.
And there's 5 shots total in the game. That is going to be a boring watch.
I mean, the thing is that when they made the schedule before the season, right at the end of last season, and then in the offseason, Nashville goes and makes all these big moves and looks like a team that's going to come roaring into the season. We all at the beginning of the season thought Nashville was definitely going to be in contention in the East for a playoff spot, if not for, yeah. And
if I'm going to be cynical for a moment, as I am.
No, you.
Let's say this is a very possible scenario. So let's say in the offseason, Leafs flame out in the playoffs again. Mitch Marner walks.
Yeah.
The Nashville Predators are a cautionary tale for what happens when you try to build through free agency. And I am not ready for this $9 million Sam Bennett contract.
Do you think he'd go to Nashville? Is that what you think?
No, to Toronto, I mean.
Oh. Do you want to have that conversation?
No, I don't. I'm saying that'd be my nightmare.
Okay.
Because he's scored, what, like 50 points once maybe? And like he'll probably get 7 in the open market,
But he is one of those players that does elevate in the playoffs. Now, is that worth $9 million? Not really. No. And Sam Reinhart, I think, is also up at the end of this year, isn't he?
I think he just signed for 9.5.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. You can tell how much I watch the news of other teams. Okay, well, it looks like there actually is some questions in the chat. So let's actually move over to the overtime period. Thank you for getting your questions. Like I said, make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you follow Zach over on the socials, make sure you follow myself as well and all of the Game Over Network main channels. Let's get to some questions in the chat. Matthew, Yellen Hawk and Paw in the finals. Stop it right now.
In the first round.
Not in this universe. Who do you think starts in that Sunday? Sunday? They're not playing Sunday. Saturday. I would guess Joseph Woll.
Alternate. It doesn't matter. The real answer is it doesn't matter because you're giving both guys a chance to earn the...
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Luke, as always, welcome back, Luke. What is your hope-o-meter registering at? How has it fluctuated over the past 10 games? That's a great question. My hope-o-meter it was up and then it was very down. And then it's been up the last couple. This week it's been up. And, the fact that they do play that tight of a game against Colorado where you defended and, in fairness, won the argument that they actually had a very good game, despite the fact that the numbers tell you otherwise. I completely agree with you. I wouldn't
say very good, but I would say good. I would say a very, if they played that game 10 times, the Leafs win 5.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be, I could expect that. And so I do think that the Leafs are hopefully, that the page is turned on sort of the blip after the Four Nations where they were good and then bad, and now they're kind of good again. I am hopeful that Auston Matthews is going to continue to get better and be more of the player than we've expected him to be. He has been that the last couple of games. I would hope that against Nashville and in the California road trip especially, we know that the Leafs have been playing very well when they've been on the road this year. It would be nice for them. Wouldn't it be nice for them to go and sweep California, get 6 of 6 points? Ooh.
You're winning the division, man.
Yeah, that would be great. It has been up and down.
Nashville and then California right after?
I have the schedule.
So it's at Nashville Saturday versus Philly on Tuesday and then California.
Right.
Okay, so it's very unrealistic. So they've won 3 in a row. They're not going to, maybe you rattle off 8 straight, but it's very unlikely that you rattle off 8 straight because the longest win streak in this Matthews era has been 6 games, right, which they matched I think they matched it last year after the whole Riley Ridley Grigg thing.
Right.
They matched the win streak after that. But look, you've got Nashville, which if you don't win that, we are going to be mad.
Yep.
You've got Philly. Look, I respect
You should win that. That will be...
you should win that game.
Scott Laughton will be against his former team, even though they're in Toronto. Should be a good game.
Nikita Gorbenkin revenge game is
my gosh. He's going to get a Hattie, and I'm going to die.
Then you have the Sharks. You lost to them already.
Yep.
You can't afford to lose again. The Kings are legitimately good. That's a good game. Then the Ducks.
Yeah.
If you lose that game, we are going to be mad. And then you have 2 days off, and then it's Panthers, 2 days off, Blue Jackets, 2 days off, Panthers again.
And then the Lightning, and then the Habs, the Canes, and then to finish off the season, you get the Sabres and the Red Wings.
So, to summarize everything that we just said, these next 5 games, win them all, because if you don't, you are going to probably be second or third in the division.
Yeah. 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 They have 13 games left. In my opinion, they need to win 7, at least. They need to win more than half.
To win the division, you probably have including the Panthers games.
Yeah, like if you win 7 and 2 of those are against the Panthers, you're in okay shape, hopefully. But again, it depends on it. Tampa's right there too, man. It's like
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to probably win at least 8.
yeah, like I mean, are the Sabres are at the bottom of the standings. The Red Wings are not capable of making the playoffs at this point, or they're far enough out of it that it would be really hard.
They're capable, but it's like the Penguins are capable of making the
Sure.
playoffs still. Like Detroit had a chance, and then they went on like a 7-game losing streak.
Yeah, but to finish out the year, you have a game obviously against the Preds on Saturday, and then you have a Metro. You have 3 in the West. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in your own division. You got to win those.
Well, and the other optimist view is, let's say you come second in the division, third in the division, whatever. You are going to get a lot of hockey against hungry division rivals that are it'll be good tune-ups for the playoffs.
Yeah. Especially, if the Canadians are as close to they are as making the playoffs, that's going to be a very hungry game, on April 12th, which is only a couple Saturdays away. It really could go down to the wire here, the whole thing. So it'll be exciting. It'll be nice for the Leafs to play meaningful games actually into April. Obviously, we were all kind of hoping that the Leafs would kind of have a wrap on this by now, on first place in the division or what have you. That has not happened because I think we would all appreciate if Austin Matthews could get a game off before the playoffs, but that's not the way the cookie crumbles. So it'll be nice for them to play meaningful games all the way up until the finals, or up until the finals would be great, actually. If they play meaningful games up until the finals, that'd be fabulous. Sign me up for that.
Skipping a few stages.
That's a Freudian slip of hope. That's what that was.
There's your hope-o-meter.
Yeah, my brain hopes, even if my heart doesn't. That's
the opposite for me. My heart hopes, my brain is skeptical.
Yeah. Anyway, that's we'll wrap the stream up here.
Well, we have a couple more quick ones.
Okay.
Like Matthew in the chat. If Patches is ready to come back, do you put him in where? I don't. I'm fully comfortable leaving Patches out of the lineup. He was good for like the first 5-6 games, and then he vanished.
Yeah. He's
depth.
Yeah, he'd be fine as a 13th forward. If he's healthy.
Probably 14th at this point.
Yeah, because I guess they're already sitting Yarncroke, right?
Actually, there's another one. Holmberg or Pacioretty?
Where are they playing?
In this scenario, the 4th line.
Holmberg.
Okay.
I don't know
I
think that Pacioretty, when he was healthy at the beginning, healthier at the beginning of the season, he did look good with Tavares on that second line and William Nylander. I think that they did have a stretch, but then he got injured and re-injured for the upteenth time, and
it's hasn't been when you're dealing with veterans at the end of that. So it is what it is. Terry M saying the Leafs are good, but just barely. They're not blowing anyone away. No, but that's not the way they're built. Like that's not the way they're constructed. I would say if we're looking at the season on the whole, they're good. Not barely. They are good. Mm-hmm. If we're looking the previous 3 weeks, they were painfully mid. Mm-hmm. And this week, they are legitimately good.
Mm-hmm. So ask us next week.
And then finally, Josh saying, interested to hear your thoughts on JT. He definitely deserves more flowers than he gets, but is there an argument to be made that the cap space could be equally as valuable? If Tavares is coming back, first of all, we almost went the whole show without mentioning this. John Tavares recorded his 1100th point tonight.
That's true.
Shout out John Tavares.
And also shout out to William Nylander for becoming the fastest Swede ever to reach 600 points in 672 games. Almost 200 games faster than Victor Hedman.
Yeah, we had some milestones. We almost went the whole stream without mentioning that. Sorry about that.
Oopsie.
But so on JT, if it's somewhere in the 6, like if the number starts with a 6, I'm bringing Tavares back every time. Because if you don't, who is your second line center here?
Yep.
Or alternatively, who is your third line center if you bring someone else in? But I don't think when it comes to the cap's going up, all that, I'm fine bringing Tavares back at a reduced rate The big question when it comes to the cap space and is it worth it is going to revolve around Mitch Marner.
Yeah. Okay, and so Josh, I'm gonna answer your question, and I'm gonna ask Zach a follow-up question. I think that my ceiling on what I want John Tavares to make, I don't want him to make higher. I do not want him to make. My top would be like 7. Anything higher than that, and I'm not interested. I think, and following that, Zach, what is your priority in the off? So the Leafs finish in the playoffs. They make it to the conference final. Ta-da! Congratulations!
Oh, okay.
We're very excited. Yes. Okay. And so now you can talk to Mitch Marner and John Tavares, even though you could always talk to them. But Mitch made it clear he didn't want to talk. And Matthew Knies' camp. What is your gold, silver, bronze in terms of your importance in getting people signed?
Okay, I can rapid fire this, and then I'll give you my. So, number one priority, if assuming they make the conference finals and everyone is legitimately good in the playoffs, priority 1 is Mitch Marner, getting him locked up. Then John Tavares, then Matthew Knies. My reason for that, Matthew Knies is the lowest priority because he's an RFA. You don't have to worry about him walking, and I don't think anyone's going to offer sheet him for a ridiculous amount. And if they do, you cross that bridge when you come to it. Offer sheets don't really happen. John Tavares, I'm comfortable in saying right now that I would be shocked if he went to another team. I think he is a Leaf for life at this point, and I think this is where he will retire. Mitch Marner then is the priority 1 because he is the question mark. You don't know if he's coming back, and you have to get that answer. I don't even necessarily say that you sign him, but you have to get that answer. So right. My priority is figuring out the Marner situation, then sign Tavares, and then Knies. Like, you could sign Knies in September for all I care. That is the lowest priority. Like, you can get. You have to sign the UFAs first, then you have to deal with July 1, and then you can go to Matthew Knies. So, like, I know that Al and Matthew are saying that Knies is the priority. No, he is not. Guys, he's here. He's not going anywhere.
No,
he's an
see,
RFA.
I disagree with you. I disagree. I think the priority is Matthew Knies, and I'll tell you why. Because you say, oh, if Matthew Knies, in fairness, I think that you have to have a conversation with Mitch Marner first. I think that conversation happens first, but I think the second phone call that you make is to Matthew Knies' agent. And you come to an agreement and you get that signed because the cap is going up. And I think that it is a better than 75% chance that another team with a lot of cap space like Chicago is going to go after an American player on a team where and go to him and say, listen, we can pay you 10.5. Is Toronto going to do that? They could. Whoa! Hang on. And you're having this reaction, and I understand that the cap is going up. He plays with a legitimate superstar. He might hit 30 goals this year. He actually scores more in terms of a ceiling. He has a higher ceiling than Sam Bennett does in terms of growth. He is still very young. He would be cost controlled. Sam
Bennett's a center.
Okay, even still. What I'm saying is, if it's me, I call Mitch Marner and I say, what does your price tag look like? And what is your goalposts that we're trying to work around? And then I get the Matthew Knies deal signed. I think that John Tavares is going to come back. I don't think that, like, I'm not surprised the Leafs didn't trade him at the deadline. That was never going to happen. I agree with you. I think he's going to retire as a Leaf. I think that we have the ability to be the only team in Toronto. I don't think he would leave to go to Buffalo. I don't think he would go to leave and be a Sen and be within, a few hours driving range so that he could continue to play and make more money. I think that he's the lowest on the totem pole. I think Matthew Knies is the player not only of this year, but Matthew Knies, Mitch Marner, regardless of what he asked for, could walk. And I think that it is more important that we lock up a player of Matthew Knies' caliber, his size. He is still growing into his freaking body. Up until this year, he was not throwing the hits that he now is. And he's going to continue to evolve. I understand the guys in the chat and everybody in the chat saying Knies is a priority, because that would be mine too. Because at the end of the day, Mitch Marner can walk. And if he wants to go make $15 million, bye. If you want to be in Toronto, if you want to play for your hometown team, then fine. I think that it's a higher chance that Matthew Knies leaves than Mitch Marner does because of, I think Matthew Knies being American and wanting to play in the States is a bigger possibility, is a more realistic possibility.
Matthews is American. He never wanted to play in the States.
Yeah, but
I don't think
but they're different
Knies
players.
wants to be here. He's already said that he doesn't.
I'm just saying, I think that another team is more likely to come in and overpay for Matthew Knies, and he will end up being worth it than paying Mitch Marner $15 million.
If Chicago wants to pay Matthew Knies $10.5 million, they can. I will take my first round picks and I will run to the bank. Like, buy.
Wow. I couldn't disagree with you more.
The Hurricanes wanted Matthew Knies for Mikko Rantanen. I'm not saying I would have done that. I would have considered it a lot more than the Leafs did. Like, I love Matthew Knies, and I think it's okay. Let me reframe this, because I'm not trying to say that I don't want Matthew Knies here, or I don't think he's a priority. What I'm trying to say is I'm the least worried about Matthew Knies. So you have to know Mitch Marner's number, because what if Mitch Marner's here or not? Let's say Marner stays. Let's say you pay him $13 million. That affects how much you could pay. That affects how much you can pay Matthew Knies. If Marner walks, suddenly you can give Knies the 8-year deal and say, "Hey, we'll lock you up to 6.5, 7 for 8 years. Cool, sayonara." Then,
contrary to popular belief, I actually think Marner's more easily replaceable than Matthew Knies is. How many players of Matthew Knies' age are continuing to get better as a power forward in this day and age? How many?
How many Mitch Marners grow on trees?
There are players that have had 100-point seasons and Mitch Marner hasn't.
How many of them play Selke level
Mitch
defense?
Marner disappears in the playoffs. You could find another player that makes $12 million that's better in the playoffs. I'm sorry.
You should. Here's the thing. If you're getting rid of Mitch Marner, you're not replacing him, though. That's the thing, is you're replacing him by, you're in the aggregate, you're moneyballing it. Like, this is like, the argument for moving on from Mitch Marner is not you can replace him. The argument is having this many high-paid players is not worth it.
I agree. I just think if we want to change the perspective on it, when he had his highest scoring season, who was on Austin Matthews' right wing? It was not Mitch Marner. It was Max Domi.
Look, I'm not here to say pay Mitch Marner. I know.
We're just having a really good back and forth.
Exactly. All I'm saying is you need that answer, because
sure.
I agree. Choice, let's say Mitch Marner walks, suddenly I am like, Matthew Knies, what is your number on an 8-year deal?
Yep.
Whereas if Mitch Marner stays, you can't afford the 8-year deal because you won't have the cap space. So then you're going to a bridge deal and figuring that out. And in a perfect world, which this is not, you get the answer on Mitch Marner, you sign John Tavares, and you sign Matthew Knies all before July 1. So you like, for
that's
Josh who wants to give me shit for saying you have to worry about an offer sheet, which no one's offer sheeted except for Jesperi Kotkaniemi in the last however many years. But let's say you want to play that role. Yes, I'm not saying that I don't want to sign Matthew Knies before July 1, because that'd be great. If Matthew Knies wants to get a deal done and he wants to be proactive, cool. But Matthew Knies is still under team control, and you, at the end of the day, the Toronto Maple Leafs would have to choose to move on from him. They would have to actively say that we can't afford you or we don't want you here. And there's no way Matthew Knies could leave for nothing the way Mitch Marner and John Tavares could.
And I'm not saying that he would leave for nothing, but I think that it is more likely than you think that a team would be willing to offer sheet him. You don't forget about what happened with Edmonton and St. Louis. Right? And if the Leafs do re-sign Mitch Marner to an exorbitant contract, another team could come in and steal Matthew Knies, and I'm sorry. Matthew Knies is more the future of this team than Mitch Marner is at this point. Mitch Marner's been on this team for a long time, but he's not a part of, he's not a part of the picture in 10 years, I don't think. Not to the level that Matthew Knies will be. That's all I'm saying.
No, but in 10 years, none of the core.
We've gotten rid of so many players. We have so few actual prospects that have actually turned out. And for Knies to have hit the way that he has is unbelievable. Like
early too.
Yeah, like early return. He's not. The kid is, just barely able to drink in the States, for God's sakes. And he's massive. That's why I'm saying he has more of the intangibles. You can't tell me that you can't find a right winger that would be able to set up Austin Matthews and Matthew Knies.
Hold on. I just thought of something.
Oh, no. What?
Matthew Knies is younger than me.
Yeah.
I'm only 22 and he's younger than me.
Yep.
Ugh,
Yep.
that's gross. Anyways, so that's why I want him on an 8-year deal. I want to recreate the value that the later years of the Nylander contract brought, where Nylander was signed to 6.9, and the last 2 years of that looked like an absolute steal, especially last year. And then if you can get Knies on an 8-year deal for $6.5 million, I don't know if he signs that. He'd be stupid to sign an 8-year deal. Any player right now is stupid to sign an 8-year deal or a 7-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to get him locked up to as long of term as possible, because he's worth what right now? What would we say? 5, 6, 5.5?
More than that.
Okay, so then suddenly the 8-year deal might be.
No, because think about it. How many players have they tried at left wing, and how many of those people have been successful?
Tyler Bertuzzi. Zach
Okay,
Hyman,
who
Michael
left
Bunting.
to go to Chicago? Bye. Or no, he's in
Yeah,
Detroit.
but
I'm just saying,
so
before
just
that, ever since Hyman left, they have been trying to find somebody to play at that position. And Matthew Knies is the only player that's been able to go in there and actually hold it for more than half a dozen games. I know Bertuzzi, but
Bunting did it, and Bunting was there for the majority of the season until Knies used him on the roster. So I think it's not that you can't find anyone to play that role. It's that Knies is still growing as a player. Knies would probably be a little bit better in that role than anyone you can sign off the street. And he's, again, an RFA, so he'll be cheaper than any UFA you could sign to replace the production equally. So that's why you got to get the answer so you can figure this out. The real answer here, is boring, because the real answer is, if any of these are dragging beyond July 1st, then either the Leafs went to the Cup final, which would have taken up the whole season, and there's 5 days to sign everyone, or Brad Treliving has just not been able to get an answer out of the Marner camp at that point. The reason the Leafs almost traded Marner for Rantanen at the deadline is because they wanted the certainty of Rantanen being locked up. So Matthew's saying 5.75 times 5 for Knies. If Knies would sign that, do that right now.
There's no way he would sign for that little. I think Knies knows how good he is, and the fact that he's getting better year over year. He's literally still a growing boy. Literally.
Here's the thing. I think 5.75 would be the number on 2 years, maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
But if it's 5 years, you're probably looking at 6.5. 8 years, you're probably looking closer to 7.
You know what I want? I want the Leafs to re-sign him so that he is still an RFA when the deal is up, so that they can sign him something cost controlled, and by then the cap has jumped a lot, and they can give him the payday he deserves. That's the dream.
Well, then it won't be cost controlled.
Right. Well, he would be for that time where the cap is making those big jumps, though. That's right.
That's the point. It's just ensuring that he's a Leaf. So I can get on board with the bridge deal.
I don't want that. I would rather lock him up for 8 years, man.
I do think the number is a little bit lower than you're probably thinking, just because the Leafs are going to be able to sell not sell his representation, but push the notion that, okay, cool, you're playing with Matthews and Marner, you should be putting up those points.
I suppose. I guess we'll see you on July 1st.
Or hopefully earlier.
That would be great.
Hopefully all of them sign for a reasonable deal.
Yeah, everybody signs for $1, actually. Let's wrap up the stream. We're at an hour and 15 minutes, and it is quite late here over in Ontario. So if you have not already, please make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you follow Zach and I. Zach, where can everybody find you on social media, my friend?
You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at ZachPayne41, and if you want to go yell at me over there, you can.
And you can find me on Blue Sky at Lauren in the 6. I'm on there quite frequently, so please make sure you go and check that out. Make sure you check over the Game Over channel down below. That's where we do all of our other shows like Hyperdrive Hockey. And make sure you check out the stream on Saturday. We're playing against the Nashville Predators. It'll be a good night. Leafs win on a Thursday night against New York in New York. 4-3 in regulation, and are tied for first in the Atlantic with the Florida Panthers once again. My name is Lauren. Thank you for being here on Game Over Toronto. This has been my wonderful host, Zach Payne, and have a great night, everybody, and go Leafs, go.